Okie doke, we're being recorded now. And 24 hours from now, I should have that posted. So, first step. Can you hear me? And the way to acknowledge that, yeah, it's shaking your heads for those of you that have video on, or a thumbs up. And what'll work?
Engineering.
Can you hear me? The reason I'm asking is I'm running my laptop and I don't have an external microphone right now, and I don't want to go find it in the pile of mess behind me and plug it in. So if it's good enough, I'm going to go with it. So that's question number one. Question two, given that there's 84 people here, you probably got my email messages, so I'm not going to worry about that. The one other question is, Farhang, are you logged in?
Yes, sir, I'm here.
Oh, excellent. Okay, so the person I just asked for is your teaching assistant for the 98 of you that are in the two classes, sections 3 and 4, and their respective laboratories. And the plan for that is we'll be doing these meetings like this every Tuesday, Thursday, and I'll just leave the meeting open, and come lab time, Farhang will take over for the lab, because his role is to walk you through the lab exercises and be able to help you on that. I'm not going to run away for those, but there'll be times when I kind of check my brain out and just leave it running in the background. So I'm going to, once I figure out how, I'm going to give Farhang temporary host so that he can introduce himself to you. He's going to do this again in lab, but let's get it done now, and then I'll go back to introducing myself. Farhang, you should be able to take the screen now.
Thank you.
Should. There we go. You should now be able to introduce yourself. So go ahead.
Yes, in a moment I'm going to bring up my slide. Hello, everyone. Thank you, Dr. Cleveland, for the introduction. I'm Farhang. I'm going to be the TA for this course and the lab sections. I'm going to be helping you finding your way around the scripts that you're going to write and the environments that you're going to use. If you can see my slides, this is me in a more neat and organized way, and that little spoiled princess is our dog Kate. My full name is Farhang Forvan Parast, and I just added my last name in case my first name was not difficult enough for you. I'm a fourth year PhD student in civil engineering, water resources management. My wife and I have been in Lubbock in 4 years now. My main research focus is on application of machine learning techniques in sustainable management of water resources, and that's where I do most of my coding and data science techniques, and I use them. I'm into video gaming, writing plays, and photography, so if you ever wanted to talk about those topics, I will always find time for you. And my favorite spots in Lubbock are the Texas Tech campus and Evie Mae's Barbecue. If you have not been there, get a car. As far as I know, they are still working. You can go with the drive-through. They are one of the best barbecues that you can ever get your hands on. So definitely don't miss that. I'll talk to you more after the lecture. We will start our lab sections very soon after Dr. Cleveland's lectures, maybe after 10 minutes. So see you again soon. And I'm going to pass host back to you. Participants.
You put my my blanket on the bed. The one with the flowers. Thank you. Thank you. Not the smoothie.
Dr. Cleveland, you are the house.
That's the part that the song.
I hope that was someone comforting their pet and we didn't get Zoom bombed. All right. So I am back and make sure there's one new person. Okay. Let me get located. So I sent a video, I believe yesterday, that was a tour of the Blackboard site. And so now we're going to do it for real. All the content for the class will be distributed by Blackboard. That's also how you're going to submit your exercises, take quizzes, take exams, and whatnot. So let me get there. Oh, this is going to be one of those days, isn't it? I want that thing right there. Thank you. I think it's TTU Blackboard. I always confuse it. So what Blackboard is it's something called a learning management system. That is a fancy name for a private web server that does a few special things. In our case, it gives us the ability to store content. In your case, as students, if you do your exercises, when you get them done, you convert them into a PDF file, and then you upload it to the Blackboard server. At that point, you've handed your stuff in. If it gets lost at the Blackboard server, that's our fault. And it keeps a log of that, so we know if it got uploaded. Some classes, they use automated grading. We'll do some of that in this class, but not entirely. In some classes, they have an automated copying plagiarism check. I think I activated it for a few things. I just want to see what it does. I don't know how you logically plagiarize in a computing class. So to access it, so I've typed TTU Blackboard and let it autocomplete. And so now it's asking me for my Texas Tech credentials. And I'm going to use my TTU and user ID. The other way to do this is with your Texas Tech email account. And the password's the same for both. They use a common password system. And it's actually single sign-on, so I'm surprised it actually challenged me with the password. Now the hard part is, what is my password? There we go. Yay! All right, so here's Blackboard, and as your interface ought to look about the same. I'm obviously, well, not obviously, I'm an instructor, so I have some different stuff over here and some different stuff over here. And this class is, you're going to want to take this one that says Fall 2020, TTU, Comp Thinking Data Science, Section 003-004. It should be jointly linked. These other two, which were the individual ones, they joint linked them, and we've been doing development only in this joint linked class. And so you select that, and here's the home page. I'm going to make one more change, which is to simulate being a student so that I only have access to what you see. So what I'm doing right now is essentially this Blackboard tour video. So if I'm going too fast, you can go back later and look at it. Blackboard has a wiki page capability that looks like anyone in the class can edit a comment, create a comment, and somehow there must be a way to make a contribution. So by all means use that to communicate among yourselves with a full understanding that the instructor, myself, and the teaching assistant, Farhang, have access to that. And we can look at it from time to time and see if there's something that we need to comment on or clarify. So that's the purpose of the wiki. That's one option there. The photograph that's there is actually part of your first quiz, so don't go editing that. Then the lessons are organized in something called a lesson collection. And then the videos are duplicate links of all the videos that are referenced in the lessons and some up here. And then the exam collection, which is currently empty, is going to be where your examinations are contained. So I'm going to go to the lesson collection right now, lesson 1. And so most of them, when they're populated, will look something like this. They'll have one or several files related to the lesson. And I'm just going to click on one. These ones happen to be PDF renderings of a PowerPoint. And this one is Long Nguyen's PDF file. So there's a team of instructors that are building the course content. Two of the lead members of the team are Dinesh, whose full first name and full last name I'm incapable of pronouncing, so I won't even try, and Long. So you'll see a lot of content that's attributed to them because they're the ones that built it. And I'm not going to go through this in this particular presentation in much detail because I have my own. The textbook for the class, or the class, is actually built on a course that was created at UC Berkeley called the Data 8 course. And we'll take the links to that when we get back to my presentation. So that's one of the resources that is, let's see how I can get out of this thing. Oh, that's right. So this one spawned a new window, so I can kill the window and get back. Okay, this becomes a test of, okay, that's the wrong syllabus, but I think it has the corrected in. I'm looking for, okay, this is the wrong syllabus, so we will exit, go away from that, go back to the home page and get the most current syllabus for this class. So the most current syllabus for this class is at this link right here. And I'll take the link in a second. I want to remind you the welcome video that I sent you that's on YouTube is linked here. There's the Dean's video, and there's Thank You for Wearing Your Mask video. Staff and faculty, we get emails at least 3 times a day telling us to remind everybody to go watch the video. So I'm reminding you to go watch the video. I've created a support site, which is working. Cool. So this is a work in progress. This is really intended for, actually it's intended for all of you, but I'm an civil environmental engineer, and I had a lot of materials that I wanted our students to have access to that possibly go beyond the context of this class. And I kind of have made a pseudo or a shadow course that follows along this one. But by all means, anything official has to come through Blackboard. And now we'll go to the syllabus. Okay, you'll know that this syllabus is created in the Jupyter Lab notebook, which we're going to have you all working in shortly. You'll know it's mine, and you know it's the correct one if at the top it returns atomickitty.aws and compthink. So that's the host and the account I'm using to create my deploy stuff for this class. And I just got this working completely well yesterday. So I have the whole class deployed on Amazon Web Services, which is on, I didn't think I could do it. And so I'm now going to go through the syllabus for this class. I will briefly stop and ask if there's any questions. I don't see anyone new coming to class. We got 91, which sounds about...
Dr. Cleveland, you have a question in the chat box. Brandon wants to know if there is a fee for using Data 8.
That's a good question. As far as I know, we have flat out stolen it. You mean Brandon, do you mean a fee in terms of using the book? Let me get to the chat box. Where is my chat? There it is. Show the chat. Okay. F in chat. I'm going to have to go look up what POG means. Okay, is there a fee to using data 8? If you're talking just about this document that I took the link to, no. The link is, far as we know, is free. We're Texas Tech and we're cheap, and we wouldn't do it if it wasn't free. That's not true, but the textbook is free. I.e., that's what I like to hear. Okay, good. The chat worked. Looks like I'm trying to send. Okay. There. Looks like I had a half-ready chat send. So let's go through the syllabus, because that's usually what we do in the first day. So Section 3 and Section 4 are miraculously scheduled at the same time and day. And so we're doing the impossible, but because it's a telepresence class, it is possible. If you are enrolled in Section 3, which is course record number 42882, you're supposed to be in Lab Section D52, which is course record number 43065. If you're enrolled in Section 4, that's 42884. The associated lab is Section D54, 43067. Where that really matters, because it's going to be the same lecture and same lab, because they're all the same. They're all grouped at the same time. It matters in us being able to keep track of your work and get it graded, and you get a grade and not have to ever take the class again. So be sure you are in the correct section lab. I don't think the computer will let you do it wrong, but make a quick check of that. If we start getting work from people and we can't figure out who they are, we'll get in contact with each of you individually and try to get that arranged. Okay, so my name, my fancy name, is Theodore G. Cleveland, PhD, PE. PE is a professional engineering license. I'm licensed by the state of Texas. ASCE means Member, American Society of Civil Engineers. That's no big deal. That's just a check every year. And then FEWRI, that means Fellow of the Environmental Water Resources Institute. That is a big deal because I have to be elected by my peers for the opportunity to write a check every year. Once elected, they pretty much keep you around. And I think that's all the letters I have after my name. I've got a few vowels, so I could probably spell words if I put my mind to it. My Texas Tech email is Theodore Cleveland at ttu.edu. We're asking you to put Engineering 1330 in the subject line somewhere when you send us emails so we can sort it correctly. I get hundreds of emails a day. A lot of them are asking for money, and so I just trash them without even reading them. So I need some indication in the subject line what it's about. And I put the same wording for Farhang's information. The plan, I'm looking at the chat right now. The plan for the time being is the same meeting. Looks like Farhang just answered that. What is it, Kat? You gonna come up and join the meeting? Yeah, of course you are. Okay, so we're about to have, well, at least say hi to the people. Come here. So this cat's name is Dusty. You met Nico in the video. You can stay up here if you lay down right there. Oh. Dusty's an elderly cat, so I got to be kind of careful with him. You good? All right. We're doing computer class. And then we have some, returning to the syllabus, there's a whole set of COVID-19 guidelines. These are relevant for face-to-face class, so not so much for this class, but I included it anyway, because you'll have other classes that are face-to-face. As far as telepresence illness, looks like I'm having trouble with my lowercase l. It's pretty much the same as the face-to-face with respect to your ability to get somebody else sick. So if you're not feeling well, go to a healthcare provider. My courses are all recorded, and they'll be rendered and posted within 24 hours on either the TTU Media site or YouTube, or possibly both. And so if you miss one or two of these classes, that should not be a problem because you can watch the videos. The laboratories will also be recorded depending on my disk space. The issue on missing laboratories is the due dates are fairly inflexible, so you'll have to get the lab work done before the due date, because the server won't accept late input there, and we'll go through that in a second. Okay, so let's go through the contents of this course. So this is what it's supposed to contain. Computational thinking for problem solving, including logical problem solving, decomposition, pattern recognition, abstraction, representation, algorithm design, and generalization. So those are big fancy words for taking a problem and simplifying it enough that you can come up with a computational solution to it. And then we're going to do some Python programming, and the main features of that will be how it manages data, some different kinds of operators. We'll find the function structure really important, and then iteration, input-output modules. And then the data science fundamentals that are supposed to get covered are experimental setup, and in the data science context, experimental setup means getting the database. And then any pre-processing that has to be done, the data scientists call that cleaning the data. Oftentimes it's not really cleaning, but it needs to be structured so that you can take the next steps. Generally, we want to make a picture of it before we proceed. That's called exploratory data analysis, and that's just displaying data. Then, depending on what we want to do with our database, we might apply some statistical methods to it, which is item 2 here, or we might apply some collectively called machine learning methods. So that's the goal of the course. And the learning outcomes, upon completion, you will have created Python programs that employed computational thinking concepts to data science. You will have employed Python libraries, you've downloaded data files from selected public sources, analyzed their contents, and you will have created scripts to perform fundamental data analytics and visualization. So that's a lot rolled up into just 4 bullet items. And then the ABET outcomes, until I get the correct A through K, O through Z stuff, I'm just going to use these bullet items. From an engineering ABET, we're supposed to focus on the ability to identify, formulate, and solve complex engineering problems by applying engineering science and mathematics, and the ability to acquire new knowledge that's needed. And that actually will happen in this class. For me, whenever I'm doing something, so I'm pretty new to Python, just a couple years at it. I go to Google and I type the following search: Python space, how do I, and then I describe in words what I want to accomplish, and hit return, and I get 10,000 blog posts. And usually one of the first few has enough information for what I need to do. And so then I acquire the new knowledge and then apply it appropriately. And then the computer science outcomes are to analyze a complex problem and apply principles of computing, mainly decomposition, and abstraction, and then design and implement a computing-based solution. Okay. And so the resources and tools for this class, we'll go through this next section somewhat slowly. So one tool is something called the Anaconda platform, and that is that's a navigation. It's an integrated development environment, and one of its tools is Python language. It provides access to that. That would be something you would choose if you want to do this on your home computer, and I have some more thoughts on that below. And Farhang in the first lab is going to briefly discuss Anaconda. What we don't want you to do in lab is to attempt to install it during the lab. The second tool is something called a Jupyter Lab, which is a different kind of integrated development environment. And we're probably going to focus on that more because there's an online source called CoCalc, which is free to you all, and the free tier should be sufficient for this class, and we'll demonstrate that shortly. And either of these are the development platforms. Python is a kernel or a program that runs within these programs, so it's admittedly somewhat confusing if you're really new to this stuff. They all can be installed on Linux, Windows, Mac OS. I can honestly say I've done all three in the last 2 months. So that statement is true. If anyone's going to do a Linux install, you're in for a long weekend because none of the instructions that come through any of the resources are exactly correct. You're going to have to do some workarounds, namely in environment and path variables. I've done an install on Ubuntu and I've done one on CentOS, so I've basically done a Red Hat or a Debian-based Linux install. I got to work on both. It can be done. If that's something you want to do, by all means. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, this semester is not the time to learn. It needs to come later. There's some modules.
Dr. Cleveland, there's a question in the chat box. Ben wants to know whether they'll be able to use PyCharm for most everything.
That's a good question. I have no idea how to answer that. So PyCharm is like IDLE, which I think is a development environment. We're going to kind of want you to use the Jupyter Notebook. I suppose you could develop in PyCharm and then just cut and paste from that into a Jupyter Notebook. If you already are comfortable in PyCharm, you should find that part of this class pretty easy. And then someone's asking how to install Jupyter using Conda. We'll get to that. Ben, does that give you enough of an answer? I hope so. That's about all I can come up with right now.
Yeah, good to go.
Okay. Some additional modules that the team discussed. One is the math module. That lets you actually do stuff like square roots. It's got math stuff, saves you from having to do a Python primitive. And then there's an operator module, which I actually don't know if I've ever used. Okay, it looks like it's a C or a C++ thing. You will find the math modules. So this part of Python is admittedly somewhat confusing because everything's done with an import or an install, like import or an attachment, which is different than older languages like Fortran or C, where you could actually do a lot of work without having to import anything. And then the data science modules we're going to be using in this class are SciPy or Skippy, I don't know how you pronounce it, Pandas, and NumPy. And you'll see examples for that. Okay, I have some thoughts on your own machine. So everybody's that's in the call is probably watching on a laptop. Okay, so my pitch for and against Apple all at once. If you already have an Apple computer, The Mac OS install is easiest. It needs a few gigabytes of disk space. And I have done it successfully on Mojave and that piece of junk Catalina. So if you already have an Apple computer and you're comfortable with it and you want to work it on your own machine, that's by far the easiest install. The only thing is you'll have to be swapping the environment using the command conda activate and deactivate. And it has explanation of how to do that. If you don't have an Apple machine, this is not the time to buy one, and this is not the reason to justify it. If you have a PC, the Windows 10 install is pretty easy. Just accept all the defaults, and it should work right. And if you're a Linux person, you're kind of on your own. The Ubuntu installer instructions are more accurate. I didn't have to do as much, and actually I did it on a Raspberry Pi also, so Raspbian's the same. CentOS you can get to work, but it's goofy, and don't ever run conda as sudo because it puts stuff in the wrong place. The online options. So this is what we're going to focus on in the labs, and also the other course sections, the same thing, is CoCalc, and I'll take the link shortly. And that is known to work. And the advantage of that, from your standpoint, so if you're really new to this stuff, you don't have to install anything. It's already there. The file system organization I find extremely confusing, but it's workable. The free tier is probably more than adequate for the class, so you won't have to pay spare money. And that's what we're kind of leaning to. The CEC support site we've been to, that's the wrong link now. I mean, that'll go somewhere. And then finally, here's the course schedule. Here's today. Is Introduction to Computational Thinking with Data Science. I just call it CTDS because it's just fun to say. Then we'll on Thursday we'll start Programming Principles, and so on. You'll see the early part is pretty fleshed out and seems to have some fine granular structure, and the late part seems like they're just kind of guessing at stuff. That's an astute observation if that's what your mind sees. These are the topics we intend to cover. Some of them we don't have a lot of material put together yet. And the goal was to get really solid stuff all the way up to this first exam. For this section, the exam is going to be administered online by the Blackboard server, and I've scheduled them during these particular lab periods. So at that point, we'll make the exam active and put a reasonable time limit on it, probably a little longer than doing it live in face-to-face, but not a lot longer, so that you have time to finish it and get it uploaded, and we have time to deal with any technical issues that come up. And then here's a proposed grading assessment. I'm not sure the weights are exact. These are different than the ones that are in the PDF slides, but this is a good starting point. It's going to follow something along like this. I still don't even know what the final project is. That's something that the other sections are doing, and I don't know what their thinking is on that. We have a team meeting every week, and so I'll find out soon. Then let's see, in a face-to-face class, no talking, cell phone, electronic devices. In an online class, electronic devices are vital. What we ask you to do is don't disrupt the webinar. Please mute your microphone unless you have a question. And as you have already figured out to do, typing into the chat window is pretty helpful. And then these are required statements for a syllabus. Why is it not scrolling? Oh, I know why. I'm blocking. Come on. There we go. So the ADA statement, if you're requesting accommodations, that comes through the Student Disability Services. Academic integrity is a don't cheat statement. So don't cheat. And in this course, cheating would be using somebody else's notebook, changing the header to make it appear as if it had come from your computer and submitting that. That would be cheating. If we can detect that, that's going to be bad. Taking somebody else's exam or sitting next to someone during an exam and sitting there both answering questions would be cheating. But working together on labs all the way up into submission is not only acceptable, I think that's going to be productive. As a religious holy day, if you have to miss something for what's defined in this OP, let me know and we'll make an accommodation. But since it's recorded, it shouldn't be a big deal. And then ethical conduct policy. So that's a second cheating is prohibited statement. So let me check the chat and see if there's messages on that. So Danny says, can we use a MacBook Pro for labs in this class? Well, this video is coming to you live from New York, not quite, from Lubbock on a MacBook Pro. So Danny, yes, you can. Again, if you're, for all the Apple users, if you have one already, if I was doing this as a student, I would go ahead and follow the Anaconda install instructions for Mac OS, build it there. I'd still use CoCalc, but I would flip between the two because you find better performance on your local laptop than on the network device. And then only use CoCalc if you can't export certain files. Installing the translators that would convert a notebook into PDF and convert a notebook into LaTeX and convert a notebook into HTML. That doesn't always go well. I've had troubles with that myself. So I think, come on, get out of the way. There we go. There we go, back to Blackboard. That's what I want to do. So we've gone through the syllabus, and I'm pretty sure I think we've just taken care of everything in Lesson 1. I don't think there's any scripts in Lesson 1. So I meant it to go longer than 40 minutes, but that's good. What I'm going to do is I'll go quickly through the Laboratory 1 layout, and then I'm going to hand it over to Farhang to walk you through Lab 1. So the way we're doing the laboratories is I'm going to go to this Lab 1. So this is a notebook rendered as an HTML file. So all we can do is look at it. We can't do anything with it. But the labs are going to look something like this. So this is a note. I'll go to the notebook live in a second. But there'll be a set of exercises, and usually at the end of the lab, I am running out of desktop real estate. Okay, that'll work. In this case, it says once you've got it to run, export as HTML, download and submit to Blackboard. We might want to do this as PDF, but it doesn't matter for today. Okay, so this particular lab is not all that hard. Some of you have even started and probably completed it already. And then there is a copy of the actual notebook. Now, I'm going to regret this, but if I look at the actual notebook, see, it should be just a text file. There's what an interactive Python notebook looks like. I mean, those are English-looking words, but pretty much completely undecipherable to a human being. And so we need to have the software to convert that into something that we can manage. I've messed with it long enough. I kind of get that everything from this curly bracket to that curly bracket is something called a markdown cell, but that's about all I get out of that. But that notebook can be put into a Jupyter Lab server. So this is not CoCalc. I'm going to do this on one of my servers, and then we'll do it in CoCalc. And you look at the notebook, and right here it's telling me it needs a graphic. We'll get that in a minute. But here's what you would download for a lab. So this is kind of an empty notebook. And so the first one, Python Online Compiler. Just pick one. So we pick one, it says run hello world, we run it and get the right answer, and then we go back and it says find the part that looks like print hello world and change it to look like that. The first lab's really easy. And then we want to screen capture that. That's good enough. Okay, so I'm done with my Python compiler, and okay, so we run the modified script, screen capture the output, save as a PNG. So it's currently screen captured. The next environment is CoCalc, and what this graphic that's missing is just a picture of this thing. So when you first access CoCalc, okay, so I've already logged in. Farhang, when he demonstrates, it's going to demonstrate going into it raw. Meaning you get the proper interface. And we'll go to Lab 0, which is pretty much the one you just saw me do. And the only change I'm going to make here is how to embed a file. So it says now insert the screen capture you made by. So I will create a new deal and insert the screen capture, which is not uploaded yet. And the syntax is in a markdown cell. Is the that symbol explanation? Yeah, the exclamation point. A tag marker, you can leave it empty, and then the file name. And the ones that work the best are PNG files. Okay, so if I run that cell, I'm going to get an error because there's no file there. More than error, it just sort of disappears on me. Huh. And the next step would be to upload that file, if I can figure out how. Download. That's right, this has that drag and drop feature. So all I got to do is get to my file system. Okay, so in my case, I put that file into Documents, and it should be that one right there. This is pretty cool if it works. Not what I wanted to have happen. And we'll return to the lab, and all I gotta do is figure out what the file's named. Why is it doing that? This stuff is designed. Okay, I don't want to do that. How do I get out of that? Let's go back to my lab. This is what I mean by I find the file system completely goofy because I'm used to other stuff. So I want to find the name of my screenshot, not that one. Don't. Okay, file system. No files found. Damn it. I will take one more minute to there's the trick. I can just kill the tab and start over again. Cool. Okay, so this is the screenshot I want, but that's a goofy name, so we're going to call it my file or something like that. So we go here to rename. Go back to our notebook. Can't remember what I call it. I think it was my file. I'm not very creative. Save that. Save. Run it. And it has embedded the file. And then the next step, if we're going to hand in the work, it says once you've done that, export as HTML. So you go here to File, and you have the export. So one is HTML, the other one is PDF. I'm going to, out of grins, just do PDF via LaTeX, see what it does. Now this takes a while. So it's actually sent the request to the server, and it will let us know when it's done in a minute. Didn't expect it to take that long. And so there should now be a PDF. Let's find the one just a few seconds ago. That one's the one we just created. And the reason I did that is it looks like that captured the graphics. And so this would be the PDF file you'd want to download and then upload to the Blackboard. The other way to do it is to export as an HTML. The HTMLs will look like this. So when you move it from this machine, you lose all the graphics. So I think you're going to want to use PDF for this lab. And that's pretty much how the lab is. Now I just went through that assuming you knew what I was doing, but I also know I was going very fast. And Farhang's going to go through with you, and there'll be plenty of time. You have an hour and 20 minutes to work through that lab. So with that, I am going to exit my CoCalc. Actually, I'm just going to leave it. And I'm going to tidy up my screen. And in the meantime, if you have questions, now's a good time to ask them. Let me get the chat thing up where I can see it. Okay, we need a Discord or GroupMe for the class. That's a really good idea. If y'all do a GroupMe, see, I don't have the software anymore. It'd probably be good to have myself and Farang is able to access that group, because there might be questions you have that we can look at and answer a lot quicker than you can figure it out on your own. But overall, I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, and then you have to make another one without the two of us so that you can talk behind our backs.
Correct. Or maybe you should just do that first and never even let us know about it. Okay. Looks like someone wants to use Discord. And Travis, what exactly is Anaconda Jupiter? They're front ends. They're front end engines. I'm trying to think of an analog that's actually, I hear something that's common. So you've probably used Microsoft Word, and when you embed an equation and typeset it, Microsoft Word is acting as a front end to a typesetting program. Typesetting program makes the equation into a graphic and pastes it into your Word, and you think it's all in Word, but it really isn't. Get the individual edition of Anaconda if you're going to do it. I don't think Team Edition is, and you don't want to pay for it. You want to do the free stuff. So I think Anaconda individual is free.
And by the way, please do not start installing Anaconda yet, because that will probably take a while, and we are going to need your computers for the lab. I'm gonna discuss that all with you.
Yeah, my home machine Anaconda, it's about 3.5 gigabytes once the download is expanded. It took several hours to download it, and it took another better part of another hour to actually get the install to complete. It's a big package, and it's got to reach out in all sorts of different places in your file system. It would be a bad idea to start an install in a lab at the same time. Okay, so it looks like all the big messages that I can deal with are answered, so I am going to hand off control of the meeting to Farang, and he will take over with a lab, and you should have lab 1 done in less than an hour. Okay, let's see. That's Zoom. I need to give you control. Where's my Zoom, sir? You get out of the way. There we go. And